live.
Everybody, yeah, get your headphones ready. Chat Pack's back. Chat Pack's back. All right, the Chat Pack podcast has returned once again. Here we are talking about this, that, and the other thing. Caleb can't hate on that beautiful intro that I came up literally as I started talking. I had no idea how I was going to intro the show. I do remember, I think the last time we did this show, I just made a fool of myself stumbling over words, but I wanted to be a little bit better. I want a little more sharp and a little more crisp because Caleb wants me to be a quote unquote professional, and I need to do things quote unquote better because there's a way to actually succeed at doing this. So I'm one of your hosts of the Chat Pack podcast, Paul Holden, where you talk about this, that, and the other thing. Today on the Chat Pack podcast, we will be talking about action movies and if they stand the test of time, or will they stand the test of time as we compare and contrast. We also might talk a little bit about perfect media and kind of just perfect things in general. Joining me, as always, from the land of the salt, he's usually snowboarding, shredding it up at the golden hour, doing cool things. The man who makes the show happen, Trevor Heim, joins us.
What's up, everybody? I actually just went snowboarding on, what was that, Monday night? Tried to go up on Sunday and found out that they don't do Sunday evening snowboarding, so I drove all the way up the mountain for, basically nothing, but I snapped some cool pictures and came back down and got to go snowboarding on Monday, which was super fun. Still pretty powdery out there, so.
It's a long drive.
That's great. A wonderful way to spend an evening and a classic Trevor thing. Also joining us, the only person that makes me more angry than honestly, anybody on the entire face of the planet Earth. He is the absolute worst, but the absolute best is Caleb Cole joins us.
Paul, I did make a couple. I was just trying to tweak a little bit about what we did with our YouTube content, and you clearly I've struck a chord with you because you've mentioned
insulted me, my honor, and my family, and therefore I must have we're going to have a very public feud.
Okay.
In which I'm going to make a lot of music videos referencing you. And I'm going to get in a lot of trouble because they will be mostly in poor taste, but they will be really artistic.
You should team up with Kanye. He's been doing a lot of those disses lately.
I know this is a completely original idea. I've never heard of anybody doing this ever. This is
okay.
me.
So like a diss rap is like your thing.
No. I've heard a diss track before. It's
funny because you basically
music
just described the diss track.
Is my idea.
I see.
Are you referring to like kind of the Luigi hype style of video where you're talking about nose length and girth but this time it'll be Caleb's forehead?
Well, see, Trevor, you're just confused because Luigi's length and girth of the nose actually impacts his ability on the ball field. That's why it is listed as 2 of Luigi's 17 tools as a baseball player. So it all impacts the trajectory of the ball, both when hit and thrown by Luigi. There's a whole bunch of airspeed science data that I really don't have the time to dive into now with our fans here. But let's just say Luigi does have, if circumstances are right, and this is usually only reproducible in a lab, Luigi can break the space-time continuum, opening up a parallel universe into alternate dimensions. We do have confirmed data on that, but again, I simply do not have the time to go there.
I actually kind of think that Luigi's a fraud and the real GOAT is Yoshi. That's my official stance on the matter. But we're not here just to talk about Mario Superstar Baseball. I know we absolutely could just talk about Mario Superstar Baseball, but I just want to make sure we don't dive down that rabbit hole too much because that's a dangerous rabbit hole for us too. Trevor would just be caught like a deer in the headlights on that one.
Yeah, I know we will pivot to our topic, Caleb, but I do want to remind the folks out there that we are streaming live on twitch.tv/chat_pack. That is where you will find us live recording the podcast, which we'll post to streaming services after. Hopefully this is going to be a weekly thing for us, but we need to do that in a row before we can officially say that we are a weekly podcast again, because we have not hit that the past couple of times, but we are working on it.
We did
However,
one, we waited like 5 months, and then we did another one, and that was 2 months ago.
yeah, so we're shortening the window. The window is shortening here,
working
but
on
the
it.
plan is to keep this rolling, same time, same place. We're liking this 5 p.m. Eastern start because Tuesdays and Thursdays you can find us streaming Mario Baseball as Tuesday and Thursday Night Baseball, where we play a whole bunch of variety of online net play games. We are probably one of the hubs for Mario Superstar Baseball content, especially net play specific player versus player content that you can find every Tuesday and Thursday. And we're also going to have some fun doing some other stuff because I'm going to pop on and stream some games after we pod. And I think that's going to be part of what we do too. So you can probably expect streams Tuesday through Thursday here on the Chat Back, 5 o'clock Eastern time, whether it just be a podcast, maybe some games after, but that is at least what we're doing now. Our topic for today, and Caleb found out about this as well. Trevor, I haven't talked to you about this as much. Since I moved to Seattle and since I started living with Will again, I've really gotten way more into movies. I've watched more movies in the past 2 years of my life than I have probably in the last like 5 combined, because I'm actually choosing to spend my time watching a movie, whereas back in the day it would almost always be like a video game or there was something else going on. I would go to the movie theater a lot and watch things, but not so much actually sitting down and like streaming a movie. And one of the big things that I've watched a lot, I'm finally catching up on a lot of these legendary 80s action movies. Like through this stuff, because I've always heard of these movies, because being online and being a pop culture kind of consumer, but I've never watched them. And so, through this resurgence of movies in my life, I have, now I've seen Die Hard, Terminator, Predator, all of these action movies for the first time. And you realize why they're still so good today, because they're everything you want in an action movie. Like, I mean, and this might tie in later, but like Die Hard is the perfect action movie. It's cheesy enough, but not overly cheesy. You have the good buddy. You got two buddies involved, so it has just a little bit of humor to cut it. It's got the big bad and just the super, kind of superhuman, but not really superhuman type of guy that just goes in there and absolutely crushes it. And it's just, the setting is great. And it just made me think of some of the action movies I've seen nowadays, and some of them, and they just don't get their hooks in me as much. I'll watch it. I'll be interested in some of these movies. Sure, I won't mind and sit down and watch a rock flick, but I don't think most of those movies would grip me as much as when I watched Die Hard for the first time. I was like, holy shit, I see why people love this movie.
You know what movie actually, and I know I'm going to get a lot of hate for this, but a classic movie that I actually legitimately enjoyed was Waterworld.
Oh,
That
man.
movie,
Waterworld was a fun movie. Waterworld was a cool movie.
and it's like, I was talking to somebody recently about Waterworld, and they were saying, well, like, yeah, like, I get that you like that, but you have to admit that it was so bad that it was good. And I don't even know if I agree with that. Like, I'm not even sure if I agree with that concept, other than when a movie is supposed to be like a serious drama and then it turns out being hilarious. The quintessential example is The Room. Like, it's supposed to like be like a heart tugging kind of, I think, at least. Who fucking knows what he thought that movie was supposed to be, but it is a comedy, But yeah, I liked Waterworld. I thought it was hilarious, and I found the clip of when they find the gills on him, and there's the old dude with the wire rimmed glasses, and he's like, "He's a mutant," and it's so okay. It is bad, I completely reverse my stance. It's so bad, it's good.
I mean, I guess, but it has so much charm, and what I think makes those like a movie,
so
like why
many
I'm more
people
willing
hate that
to
movie.
watch Waterworld over like a modern day, like, because like Waterworld, I think you could basically say is like a modern day, like, see, if it was made today, it'd be a CGI fest. It would be everything shot in front of a green screen. But what makes Waterworld cool is that it's practical, and they're like actually on this floating city thing, and they actually commit to putting you in this world. And that's what I think makes me appreciate it. Honestly, another great example that I think fits into this, Will and I have been rewatching the live action Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movies from the late 80s.
Wow.
And cheesy, super cheesy. Like but I mean, it's actually they're good Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movies because like of the way they're in the setting and it's fun and because the turtles obviously look a little scary, but you're in the world, you're there, even though the turtles look ridiculous, but you suspend that disbelief. I don't know what it is for me. I get, maybe it's nostalgia. I think it's gotta be that I can tap into those movies and connect more to being really there in that world than one of these modern day action movie blockbusters Uncharted, I love the video games, but it's like that movie is shot in front of a green screen. Like, do I really need to go? Like, is that as memorable as going to see
Well,
Uncharted, a video game series I love and I like Tom Holland, and I think Wahlberg is fine, honestly. Really, he's terrible casting for that character,
Oh yeah.
if you ask me. But I don't think I would sit there and come out of Uncharted the same way I came out of rewatching, especially the first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and being like, I actually would like. I really liked that movie. I really liked that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie. It was a fun movie.
yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be a big blockbuster, and I am firmly in the camp of maybe not always practical effects being better, but that practical effects for certain things are better. I'll say, like, I think the perfect example is Lord of the Rings versus The Hobbit. I mean, the orcs in Lord of the Rings, like when I see those orcs, I think, wow, that could be outside of my house right now. Like, it is terrifying. It looks so real. And then you see the orcs and the goblins and the Hobbit, and I mean, cool. Like, they were fine, but they don't have that same impact. Like, and you can't see the very real spit hanging off of their prosthetic teeth, And like that really does, it pulls me out of it. In comparison to Lord of the Rings, it's just so real. Like I don't know, I really feel that.
Yeah, I think that CGI lends itself well to being a supplement to other things that you're doing throughout your movie, other practical effects and things like that. But when it becomes the main focal point of the whole thing, is when it just starts to fall apart. You're like, oh, I'm just looking at like this big CGI thing that's on a CGI background, and like, why should I feel anything about any of this? Whereas like, if you use it, like I think the Mandalorian's been a great example of how like they've done a lot of stuff practically, and then when they throw in CGI to enhance the practical stuff, it's less like it jumps out at you less, and you're less likely to be like, that's just like a bunch of CGI stuff.
Yeah, I mean, look at Baby Yoda. What an insane success.
Yeah, Baby Yoda would not
is.
be nearly as cool if he was not a puppet.
And like it's so silly too. Like when he walks, it's like it's so clear that it's a puppet, but like I love it. I absolutely love it.
Well, and I feel like that also factors into the cuteness factor of Baby Yoda, because if they didn't do a practical effect like that, it would just be creepy. Probably they would have the hardest time trying to make a CGI character that's like adorable and as cute as what they've made.
I hope that they recognize the success of that and bring a little bit more of that practical effect back. Like I was really hoping to see more of the practical effects in the Lord of the Rings series. I think they're calling it the War of the Ring or the Ring, the Amazon series.
Oh, on Prime.
Yeah. Which I mean, I know a lot of Lord of the Rings fans are extremely skeptical after the showing that the Hobbit had, but I don't know. I'm going to keep an open mind with it. I really, really want it to be good because it's such a cool concept and it has so much potential. But I was hoping to see a little bit more of the practical effects, but we didn't really get to see much of that in the posters that they put forth and some of the teaser trailers. It looked like it was just a CGI fest right off the bat, which concerns me big time.
Yeah, I'm wondering though with that if they're keeping the cards closer to the chest and trying to catch people like with the Mandalorian, where you're like, the whole time with the Mandalorian, you were kind of what is this? Is it going to be good? Are they going to go lean into that? And then you watch the Mandalorian, and whether you like the stories or not, but you can tell that, like Trevor said, the practical with the CGI enhancements, which is much better because. Like you said, I will never forget in The Hobbit watching. I can't remember the last Hobbit. I don't know if it is Legolas. Someone is on a snowy peak, and they're like jumping on like really
No,
supposed
the
to be like
bridge
really
breaks, and
shallow things, and you can just clearly tell that
he's
he's just
jumping, like
stepping
the
on a
bridge is
platform.
breaking, and each one of those rocks is falling, and he's jumping off of the rocks, and like everybody in the movie theater just groaned in unison.
Yeah, it was just
Or like when he jumped off, I saw the clip today. He jumps off the mountainside and he stabs the troll in the head, and then he steers the troll in order to like bust down this giant stone pillar and create a bridge or something. It it was rough.
like I would rather watch the puppet, the puppeteering. Like you can tell it's an obvious, like people really trying to make the practical effect look as real than something that is just so painfully. I mean, they're obviously both not good. They're both not quote unquote ideal, but that's what, again, there's just stuff about action movies. And I think one thing too about action movies of the past, they don't overstay their welcome. They come in, they say, here's an hour and a half, here's the story. Arnold's, Predator starts, Arnold's off a chopper. He is just freaking jacked out. I mean, just absolutely built out of his goddamn mind, glistening. And then what does he do? He takes a completely useless Jeep trip because he gets off the helicopter and just rides in a Jeep. I don't know, 200 yards, like up, and he's like this guy had to drive him. But then one of the greatest scenes in action movie history. I feel so. Carl Weathers, I think is also in that. I've got to get the name right.
The acting coach from Arrested Development,
right? Yes, I'm pretty sure. Let me make sure. Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's Carl Weathers, and
love it.
Schwarzenegger just walks in, and it's son of a bitch, and dude, two just absolute
the classic,
just the biggest biceps you've ever seen, and then they just start talking about how they're going in, and they're gonna just start fucking shit up, and then it's like I'm in, and it's like sometimes it's just like in these movies, it's like, I don't give a shit about the Rock's family in this movie. Like I don't care. And it's just like, it doesn't have the same impact on me. And I'm just curious. I think these sometimes a movie gets bloated, and that's what makes it forgettable. And one thing, I loved the new Batman. I really do. But there are parts where it's just kind of like, okay, like we're going along here. And like,
it was too long.
This, and it's like, I just feel like when you don't edit, or like when you don't just kind of suspend some disbelief that you're an action movie, like you just need to kind of lean into that. I don't think Batman's the best example for that. I think that I'm saying more for a blockbuster action movie, like whatever this Michael Bay Gyllenhaal movie is going to be coming up.
Terminator 9.5. You just have to commit
to saying, here's 90 minutes of basically 80 of it is action. The first 2 minutes you're introduced, and then the last 8 is the resolution, and then that's going to stick with me, with just some kind of real notable characters here and there. I think with big set pieces. I don't know, because if you're going to go with the long action movie, I need it to be like a more on a drama, like a long action movie. Like I want to go watch a Blade Runner 2049 again over a bloated blockbuster. I'd rather sit through that slow, but then the action comes and you get a little slice of it, but you're really in this cool world. I think setting is key.
The funny thing is, so you mentioned the Batman, which I could spend an entire podcast talking about the Batman, because that movie was so fucking awesome. I'm so stoked on that movie. But I agree, it was a little long at points, and I think for me, actually, a part that I felt like dragged on a little too long and probably didn't need to be in the final cut was like the whole car chase scene, because the car chase scene didn't really make too much sense to me, and it was also this big action set piece in what was otherwise a pretty slow burn movie. So I was like, I just felt like that was something. It seemed to me like something that maybe the studio was like, we need an action scene or whatever. This is Batman.
Have the Batmobile chase somebody down.
Yeah, it just didn't click. But you mentioned an Uncharted earlier, and I feel like Uncharted is exactly what you're talking about, of like just action set piece after action set piece, just ridiculous, over the top. You've got Tom Holland like basically playing Spider-Man, playing Tom Holland, like hit that character that he always is.
Supposed to be the little witty, the quick witty, like sarcastic adventure guy.
Yeah, and he's like, stumbling through these crazy, things that are going on and whatever. But that movie, I felt like I went into it really excited for almost like an Uncharted version of National Treasure. And I feel like National Treasure is like doesn't waste time with a lot of plot. It's just fun. Like the whole movie's just fun. I've watched that movie God knows how many times, and it's like it's not the most groundbreaking movie. I was expecting like that when I went to see Uncharted, and then I was just so bummed out because it was like I don't know how they missed that with it. And it just didn't work the same. I don't know. It had all these big action set pieces. You got Tom Holland flying out of a plane and flying into the ocean and not dying somehow. But I don't know.
I mean, that's kind of part of the game, like in a sense, like that part where it's like that part of the disbelief. I don't mind the action heroes surviving the completely ridiculous thing. Honestly, I like the ridiculous stuff, but it is like it doesn't always like the one like big major one that I haven't gotten into, and I've only watched a couple. Like Fast and the Furious has never got with me, but I get why people like it because those movies are cars. Cars go boom. Vin Diesel says some shit, and then everyone's just doing like, aren't they going to space soon? Like, isn't that their next thing? Like, they're gonna go to space.
Are they?
Yeah, I think they were doing doomsday weapons at some, and like you watch the first Fast and the Furious, and you're like, so this is where they started because it's just like really a pretty mediocre movie about like street racing, and like this guy gets in, and it's just all a bunch of hey. I'm a macho man. It's like, hey, I'm another macho man. We're going to race some cars. Don't use the nitrous. And then it's like slow things, nitrous. And then
the car goes
CGI
boom.
cars. I mean, I got to watch. I have to, as a person who enjoys kind of pop culture-y things and as someone who...
Well, you like the Big Bang Boom movie.
Yeah, I have to watch all of them. I eventually will. But I don't think I'm going to... I gotta go on the journey. It's too popular. It's like the most successful movie franchise ever. Like that's what I'm saying. Like the Fast and the Furious is going to stand the test of time. Uncharted probably not, unless they keep it's a success and they like do a bunch of sequels. But like Fast and the Furious, like those movies make billions of dollars
for some reason. Yeah,
I mean it's cars go boom.
I feel like they make
cars go boom.
The longer that Fast and Furious has been around, the more I feel like the more and more money they've made at box office, but also the less likely I am to rewatch them. And I don't know if a lot of people factor that into like how they rate a movie or anything like that, but I feel like I always think about like, would I want to see this movie again? Or like, do I think about this movie afterward? And like the first like 1 through 3, maybe the 4th Fast and Furious, I've seen those several times and I enjoy watching them even now, having seen them a bunch of times. But then from like 5 onward, I can't even discern like which ones I've seen or not seen, or like they all just, and I've probably only seen a couple of them once, and like I don't really have any interest in trying to rewatch. Like you said, you're going to try to watch all of them, Paul, and it's like that sounds really boring after the 5th one for me.
I guess maybe I don't need to watch all of them. I just need to watch like the ones.
Yeah, like the main ones.
You want to watch all of them.
But it's like if you're going to look at the ones that did the best in terms of like box office and like, you know, how much money they raked in, I feel like it's the newer, later ones that a lot of people have probably only seen once.
Do you think movies like James Bond just get to benefit from that legacy thing? Like, would James Bond and Bourne, like, do those get to work just because of the legacy? Like, especially, I think that James Bond's been around for so long, but I'm curious, does like Bourne get to, will that stick? Is Bourne gonna be looked back at the same way we look at James Bond? I mean, there's not nearly as many Bourne movies, obviously, and James Bond is one of those franchises that continues to be brought back and brought back and brought back. But like because I'm thinking like Bourne was kind of when we were growing up, it was Bourne and the Mission Impossible and the Ocean series, I would say, were like the 3 kind of huge pop culture movies in addition to the Fast and Furious when they really got going when we were growing up. So I'm wondering if like those movies are going to be up with the ranks, because there's no way that Predator and Die Hard and those 2 for sure are like at the top. Like those will always stand the test of action movie time, I think. But are we gonna, are Bourne and all those movies that we grew up, are they gonna end up like on Rambo? That level? Like, I don't know. Like, I don't think I've seen an action movie that I can quite say is as great as an action movie as like Die Hard or Predator. Honestly, Die Hard, I would say, is kind of the gold and the best action movie that you can make, I would say.
Best Christmas movie too.
So I'm just, do you think
Gosh.
like people really are gonna look at Bourne down the line or any of these other types of movies and say like these are important action movies, like these stand up as like quality movies? Because I think Die Hard's a good movie, and I think Terminator. That's what I was saying. Terminator 1 and 2. Like
Yeah.
Terminator 2 is a phenomenal movie. Like I guess they just have to be good, right? They have to be good movies for them to have a legacy.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Caleb.
No, go for it.
Oh, I was just thinking like I don't know that they necessarily have to be good movies. I don't know what. I guess if we knew what the secret sauce was, we'd be like gazillionaires in Hollywood or something. But I feel like Terminator, for example, it's like, yeah, Terminator 1, Terminator 2, all-time classics, like several of those 80s movies are. But then look at how many Terminator movies they've made since, and many of them were so forgettable, and even now they're still trying to reboot like Terminator movies and like make new ones, and it's just like people are going to go see it because they have such a fond memory of those first couple that are like objectively pretty good movies, but they just now like won't be.
So
I don't know.
They think since the name Terminator's there's the chance that it's going to be Terminator 2. Because yeah, I never watched any of those, and like now that I've seen 1 and 2, like I'm good. Like I don't need to see any of the. I mean, I know I could, but I don't know if I necessarily even want to be in that world even longer than 1 and 2. Like I think that you can tell different stories. Like I think it's worth that The Matrix gets a trilogy. I know kind of people the way, or like I didn't see the new one, so I guess it's not a trilogy. So I'm still on trilogy mode. I forgot that The Matrix just had a sequel that came out last year too.
Exactly.
It is. It's just like I don't know. I'm trying to draw the line in the sand for me at some points where it is just like I don't really care that much. I like Terminator 1 and 2, but that's it. I don't need to go and watch this other reboot regeneration version.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of room for more cult classics to be produced, for sure. Like, and I think one thing that's easy to forget too is that we're like looking at these old movies of the past, stuff like Die Hard, stuff like Terminator, Scarface, Rambo, like all these movies that are absolute classics. And you got to remember that there are, for every one of those movies, I guarantee there's a dozen movies that you've never heard of that premiered around the same time and nobody remembers, except for people maybe who like went and saw it, like a movie that I'm surprised, or at least at the time, I was surprised how quickly it died off, was something like Pacific Rim. Because Pacific Rim was just like, when I saw it, I think I was 16 or 17, and it was just big robots fight Godzilla, and it was sick. I remember watching that and leaving the theater with my buddies like Adam and Tyler and just being like, that was awesome, and then I never watched it again. Like, and it was cool. Like, it was a cool idea. Like, I enjoyed the actual execution of it, and that was like a super there wasn't practical effects in that movie. Like how, what are you going to do? Like dress up somebody the size of a building, So I understand why they did all the CGI on that one, but I enjoyed it. There was some bullshit like, they're shooting rockets at Godzilla the whole time and none of it actually works out. And then at the end of the movie, the robot shoots out a sword from its arm and one swipe chops off the Godzilla arm or the kaiju's arm. And we were all just like, I remember looking at my friends being like, why didn't they do that in the beginning? That was clearly
Why didn't they save everybody?
Extremely effective. Like that worked so well. But I do think that there's room, and I talked to you guys a little bit about this. I think something like Dune, like I think that's one of the best movies that in recent memory. I can't think of anything. I would love for you guys to kind of challenge me on that. Like the last 10 years, I can't think of a movie that I have enjoyed nearly as much. That movie slaps. It, like, the world is so cool, and they did some really, really interesting deep world stuff, like some of the suits that they have, and the tech and the vehicles, like the ornithopters, are super, super cool. I thought that the casting decisions, like I'm reading the book now, and they are it's a movie or a book from the 60s. and they are describing Timothy Chalamet like perfectly. Like they talk about the sharp nose, the jet black hair, like the kind of gaunt features. You're like that is Timothy Chalamet. Like that's perfect.
I
And,
haven't seen it yet, but
Oh,
I would say maybe
Paul.
it's so good. It is
I
I cannot believe that you get to go see it in theaters. I'm considering.
yeah,
There's
well,
one
I don't
theater
know
an
if I can
hour
get to.
from me.
We'll see. I got to make it happen. I'm running out of time this week. It's
You
already
need,
Wednesday.
dude. You need. It is worth it.
But I was
It
gonna
is worth
say so I don't have a I don't know, but I would say a movie that might be on the same level. I don't know how you felt
Yeah,
about it,
yeah.
but Fury Road. Like Fury
See,
Road will be an action like, and everyone does already talk about it like that. Like Fury Road is
I don't.
awesome.
I'm in the camp. I don't. I know I'm gonna get hate for this because everybody loves that movie. I think that movie was overhyped. Like it was just like it was good. Like I'm not saying it's a bad movie or like that I wouldn't watch it again. I've seen it before, but like people talk about it like I'm talking about Dune right now. Like I legitimately like I got the vibes from Dune, the same vibes from Fellowship of the Ring, where it's like you're setting up this long kind of history. It's a little slow to start, and then once stuff starts to roll, you're like, all right, this could be really cool. And so that's why I'm super hype about Dune Part 2, and I'm assuming Dune Messiah is just like a lock at this point after how successful Dune 1 has been.
I would hope so.
And if they wrap that all up, but going back to what I was actually talking about, Fury Road, it was like cool apocalyptic world. I kind of got the same vibes as Fast and the Furious. Cargo boom, man with electric guitar shooting flames at the top, like cool. Like I enjoyed it. Definitely enjoyed it. But do I think it's a masterpiece like a lot of people will call it? Like what's special about it besides cargo boom, electric guitar shooting flames out of it? Like is there really that like an amazing of a story to it? I personally don't think so. Like of course like the execution of everything top fucking notch, absolute, like looks beautiful. I think the people who act in it are great. The big bad guy who's like the he's got like the what is his name, like the Baron or something. No, the Baron is from Dune.
The guy that's got the
Yeah, exactly.
All,
I don't
all
know
I can
what
think
his
of
name
is the Rick
like,
and Morty, the Rick and Morty version.
but like I guess I don't get, like it's almost a little pulpy to me, that movie. Or I think pithy is the word I'm searching for.
Pulpy?
Like it's it's just a way to say cargo boom. It's like it's just like cloying. Maybe cloying is a better word. It's just like so much. Do you know what I mean by that, Paul? You look confused, like you don't know what
You
that
just
word
said
means.
you just said you described a movie as pulpy and then you followed it up by describing it as cloying. Did I hear that right?
And
Yeah.
pithy a bit.
I'm to be
None of
totally
those-
honest. No,
none of
I
those
got
hit-
lost. I was trying to follow on. I understand like pulp, the idea of
Cloying
pulp,
is-
and then I
okay,
was trying to
cloying is,
follow,
like,
and then you
overly
hit me with
sweet.
whatever the hell you said. No, I got lost.
Yeah, cloying is like overly sweet. Like me and Andrew used to joke about certain songs or certain movies, kind of like pouring sugar on the brain. And it's like, when like they just give you what they think you want to see, like the cargo boom, And that's
I'm
kind
more
of what I
th-
got
like-
from Mad Max. Like what? Tell me why you think that I'm like, because I know you disagree, and I want to hear why.
Because if you look at why Mad Max isn't just like Fast and the Furious cargo boom, like you have to actually look at the themes and the idea and like what actually happens. Because the movie doesn't even start like with the chase happens after a whole setup of you're introduced to this terrible this terrible guy who is, basically
Big bad guy.
trying to sustain life and by having all
He's
the control of
hoarding
the water.
Mhm.
What was that?
He's hoarding all the water.
Yeah, he has all the water and he, obviously, and he dumps and all that stuff and he has that control. But then you see like what he's doing in order to reproduce and like to keep his bloodline going and like all of the oppression of the women in that society and how that is led by then Furiosa, his right hand person who has literally done basically everything, completely crafting this mastermind plan all on her own. And then Mad Max honestly just happens to to just get involved. Like that's what I think what's cool is that you think it's a Mad Max movie and you're thinking, oh, here you go, big tough burly guy, he's just going to drive, he's just going to shoot and mess everybody up. But in reality, it's this intense scene, and then the set pieces of the cars go boom. It's not just like because there's like actually there's not a ton of there seems to be a lot of them, and only in few scenes do you really have like the big amount of cars blowing up. There's a lot of like the action of the cars actually being close to each other and like people hanging off and fixing the car. There's just a lot more elements to the action and the stakes. I mean, these are literally like they're all using like precious gas, precious resources to do this long journey, you know, to go there. And like while they're through and like people are dying, you start to see like people questioning their authority, questioning why they're doing this, and you just kind of see like how there's just a lot more, I think, to the action and the development, plus just the themes and the ideas are a lot more than, hey man, we're doing it for the family and we're gonna go and work with the government and steal nukes and we're gonna save the world because we can drive a car through a skyscraper and then we're gonna go Akira slide on the rock. You know, like they tell a story, and then you at the end, like you meet these, you know, I'm spoiling the movie, but you know, Furiosa finally comes to what she promised these women was a salvation, and then there's nothing. You know, their journey ends in the desert with the last remnants of where Furiosa came from, and instead of them doing that, they decide it's worth it to come back to rebuild this, and they have seeds and they have a way to rebuild life. So they come back and throw the dead body of the king and you know, restart life there. And I think that's just like a way more worthwhile story than anything that Fast and the Furious has ever told us. I mean, I don't, and I think people were just inspired by the characters too in that. Like Furiosa is a badass. Like Furiosa is, and like Mad Max is cool too, but like Furiosa is the one that makes shit happen in that movie. Mad Max is just a good gun. Furiosa's fixing the truck. She's driving the truck. She's she's got the truck all set up. She's talking to all the people. So that's kind of where it is. And I don't know if that necessarily convinces you, but that's why it's not on the level of Fast and the Furious cargo boom.
Yeah.
There's a lot of cars that go boom though, and that shit is cool too, because there's a giant fucking flame tornado with lightning bolts and cars flying around while a guy is shredded. That is also
when the guy starts shredding on the guitar and there's like flames shooting out. I think I actually moaned.
And he slows down when they're stopping, and you can hear them, and he's just like grung and grung, and he just like gets hit one time, and he's on his little chain, and he's still just like rocking out. I mean, yeah, that shit's cool. That shit is also way cool.
Yeah, see, that's cargo boom. That is quintessential cargo boom. You know, I'm not saying that it doesn't. That's the whole movie, you know, but
you know, it kind of also adds to like, this is what is like, look at how much he's put into creating this ridiculous fucking guitar car versus helping out the people that literally come out of the ground. I mean, the opening scene when the water, there's people that just rise out of the dirt and then are coming to get water.
Yeah,
right? So people. I think that just adds some stuff, and of course, like the whole fact that he's like a cult leader and all that stuff. So. I don't know. Well, I think it's dope, and I'm not trying to take anything away from Dune. The substance to that movie is great, I think.
Yeah. You don't have to. You know, they're not mutually exclusive. The enjoyment, you can enjoy them both or neither or one or the other. You know. What are you gonna say, Trev?
I was just gonna say I feel like I agree with Paul, and I haven't seen Mad Max Fury Road in a minute, so I didn't quite remember all of those plot details and everything like that, but I feel like for me and like a lot of people, they hold Fury Road in pretty high regard because it is like a pretty good example of you know, I think when did the original Mad Max movies come out, like in the 80s too, maybe?
They were Mel Gibson movies back in the day.
Classics for sure.
Yeah, like they were classics. I feel like they weren't super they weren't on the level of like Terminator. They were cult classics. All that.
I think that's their ceiling.
It's more like it. I feel like the original Mad Maxes were more like Waterworld in my mind. Of like they have these diehard fans, but they weren't like all-time classics that, you know, we watched growing up because like our parents watched them growing up and whatever. And so they took that and they took that world and they made a really compelling, unique, new kind of take on it. And I feel like a big part of that is like, I guess in thinking about like some of these more forgettable action movies, it's like, I don't know if this is the right way to describe it, but like I feel like certain movies just have a level of respect for the audience too. So it's like they understand that the audience can think on their own and that they like appreciate, you know, quality and art and that sort of thing. Like, you know, Fury Road has so many scenes in it that's like, it didn't need to be that beautiful and it didn't need to have that level of like cinematography to it, but because of like looking at the source material, but they did that anyways and it worked. Like, it was really awesome. So I don't know.
The movie has a lot of art in it. The scenes, especially like a lot of the scenes of where they're driving to. Like, I think one of the most iconic ones is the people walking on the stilts. I don't know if you guys like, it's a dark scene and there's these people that are walking on stilts in like this mud swamp land, and that leads to a really cool scene with the bullet guy trying to just like shoot him and stuff. Yeah, movie rules. But you know, it's curious, like, but like when I think of action movies that have been released like more recently, that's one for me. Like, people will look back and say like, that is a good one. And you know, hopefully with Dune, and it will be the same as it spawns something new. Because like because obviously people will look at Star Wars, they look at those other massive franchises, but it was cool that
the new Star
you know,
Wars will not hold up. I don't think they hold up even now. I thought they were terrible.
I think they will hold up. I think they'll hold up the same way the Clone War or the prequels, where honestly, at the end of the day, there will be a lot of people that will say that they really like them, and that's the ones they grew up with. You know, there's a whole generation that those are the Star Wars they grew up on and all that stuff. So they're gonna really like them, and it's just gonna end up just being everyone. I think is just gonna come to the conclusion that Star Wars, the big picture, is fine. Like, I think that's just where
the OG Star Wars are like obviously the best. They're legit. Like, and they created an awesome world. And then the prequels, I think, are miles and miles better than the newest movies, without a doubt. Paul, shake your head all you want. You're fucking wrong,
dude. I know you don't like those movies, different. But I don't know how you could sit there and like we watched them together.
They actually have like overall plots that make sense. That's why. And they have a cohesive story between. It doesn't. Okay, no, hold on, Paul. Wait a minute. The first three, or the prequels, like actually have a cohesive storyline that like actually ties into the original stuff. And then the latest three, like, they're going to pull out, like, first of all, there shouldn't be any Sith at all if you're going to like stick with Anakin's original storyline and the prophecy, because like he destroys Sith forever. Like, that's the whole point of his entire character arc, where he like is good and then he goes bad and then he comes back to good at the end, and like that's the point, right? And then they bring back not only just any, or like, you know, any Sith in general, like Kylo Ren becoming Sith doesn't really make much sense. Sure, whatever. But then like you bring back Palpatine. Sorry if you haven't watched Star Wars, like you're late to the party.
There's no possible way that you have existed on the internet and not heard the end of the new
like,
Star Wars.
They
There's
bring
no
back
way.
Of all, like, sure, like the movie, the CGI, the acting, everything's better than the prequels for sure. But like the actual like core of the movies, the new ones are the worst. Absolutely.
I think the second movie is easily above and beyond the worst, and I think the first two of the I think the first two new Star Wars are miles beyond, and the third one is just fan service. And I think there's a ton of fan service in the prequels too. And Lucas himself is even on record and has to do a bunch of fan service stuff. I will never agree on that, but just for my sake, I will.
No, it's
I had the
perfectly
choice,
consistent with your other garbage.
You gotta watch. You're picking Star Wars to watch. I will pick the originals, the Disney, and then the prequels every time. I think Clone Wars is abysmally boring, and I was never as bored with any of the new ones as I was in Clone Wars, and the second half of or like a good
Fett
chunk
in the
of Phantom
Clone Wars.
Menace.
Are you kidding me? Mace Windu fighting?
Yeah, that doesn't come, dude, until the last 15 minutes. That's literally the last 15 minutes.
Jango Fett doesn't come in the last 15 minutes. He's like the whole time on Kamino.
I thought you were talking about the arena. I thought you were talking about the arena scene. That's literally the last.
Mace Windu fights in the arena scene, and like that's where Jango Fett gets fucked up. You know,
chopped off. Like I said,
again, I will agree that the acting is very, very rough, and it's very. It's excuse me, Paul. Excuse me. It's very preteeny, you know, and like of course, like I saw that when I was, I think, literally a preteen. I was probably like 11 or 12
so are the new ones, though.
When that came out. What?
I'd say the new ones are very preteeny as well.
Yeah, I could feel it. You know, I think they were kind of also like Star Wars is kind of always kind of shooting it like the young mind so that it's kind of like a little bit more adventurous and open to the ridiculous. Like, because I mean, let's be honest, if we take any Jedi and they're ever fighting somebody who can't use the Force, it's like, come on, I'm gonna burst your heart with the Force. I'm going to disconnect your spinal cord.
It's like when you play in Battlefront 2 on Mos Eisley. It's like you're always gonna pick the Jedis. You're not picking any of the ones that have the guns because the Jedis will just dash at you and just chop you in half and you're dead.
Sometimes I would pick Boba Fett just so that or Jango Fett.
Han's pistol was pretty good too because it had the 3-shot and you could hit people from afar. It was it was fun, but it's like, you know, I'm gonna be Maul. I'm gonna be Grievous who has 4 lightsabers.
I love being Darth Maul and you can just jump like all the way up to the top of that structure.
That's when it comes down to it, my Star Wars take now, what I've realized, I think after coming, Star Wars video games are just way better than the movies. Star Wars should just be video games.
Yeah, I mean the movies you're not gonna get me to say that they're way better,
Obviously,
like especially the classics. Yeah, and of course like Star Wars the prequel 1 was amazing. We can all agree that, you know, pod racing? Kidding me?
I'm surprised.
I won't call it amazing. It's good. It's good. It's what I wanted. And then
Darth Maul, the Duel of the Fates music.
Duel of the Fates is one of the greatest movie songs we've ever heard. Bum, bum, bum.
So I'm surprised that it took us this long to get to Star Wars in this discussion.
Yeah,
but
we have a nasty habit of getting to Star Wars.
While we're here,
but I feel like
Paul and I just have such contrasting opinions on the prequels that it always ends up being a good.
And that's just 3 white dudes arguing about Star Wars on the internet. I mean, that is just quintessential podcasting at its best, right there. We were matching up with everyone. All right, we're getting close to the end here, but I am curious, Caleb. I'm sure yours will be Dune, but Trevor, out of the action movies that you've seen, and it can action can be a stretch, but like movies that you've seen growing up, original IP or maybe a sequel within a realm. What do you think
sci-fi,
are action
adventure,
movies?
right?
Like, what do you think are the action movies that you've seen that post 80s, post 90s that you think are going to withstand the test of time?
I think the first one that comes to mind, if we're just talking like kind of campy action, like, cargo boom fun action movies that are going to stand the test of time. First one that comes to mind is John Wick. I don't know if you guys have seen at least the first John Wick.
Great pick.
But
People
Wick,
love those movies, dude. I watched the first one, and yeah, I mean,
I think totally. We should also, I want Trevor to elaborate on that, but we just have to, before I forget, we have to mention, obviously, The Dark Knight. I mean, like one of the greatest movies.
Well, I was going to say, because I was going to say,
period.
Certain Marvel movies with that give you enough to tie into the Infinity, those will stand the test of time.
Yeah, like there's certain movies like I loved Guardians of the Galaxy. Yeah. Love that movie.
Nolan trilogy will. Like, people will still have issues with. I think Batman Begins benefits the most as time has passed because you go back to that movie and I think originally people were like, but you go back to watch Batman Begins and you're like, that movie rules. But anyway, Trevor, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just thinking like John Wick in terms of like pure, it's just trying to be action. It's just trying to be really cool fight scenes. And they give you like just enough story that it's really interesting. Like they throw in, this kind of underground society of assassins and whatever, but they don't explain it too much. They just stick to the action set pieces. And I feel like that first one was just so awesome. And it's like Keanu Reeves just at his best, which is basically him just fighting all sorts of people and not doing any actual acting. And so John Wick 1, it like really will stand up there for me. The second and third one started to kind of fall off for me. The second one's kind of good. But I don't think will top the first one. The first one will probably stand the test of time.
I love why I like John Wick was the league of it wasn't just he was a badass assassin. It was here's this whole underworld of this assassin's world, and I was like, that's the shit I want. But I did like how they teased it a little bit, and I haven't seen the other ones. And it's a lot of John Wick. Isn't there a John Wick 4 coming out or something too? Like
they released a teaser
and then they're gonna do a special thing about the assassins thing. So it's like that's clearly where they were like, ooh, but like I think you nail it. John Wick people love those movies. Keanu Reeves is responsible for so many classic action movies. Because if you're talking about action movies that
Speed.
I don't know if they're going to stand the test of time, but people will always love these movies. People will always talk about Point Break, and people will always talk about Speed. Those are
Dude,
two movies that you can say
Speed
whatever
is
you
a
want about them being
horrible
good or
movie.
bad movies, but there is no fucking chance that people who like action movies aren't going to talk at least about both
Dude,
those movies.
I enjoyed Speed, and I would watch it again. I
Yeah.
would. But it is a fundamentally horrible movie. Like, dude, like when I cannot believe I was amazed that they not only did they do the the whole premise of the movie, if you haven't seen Speed, is that there's a bomb on this bus and they have to stay above, I want to say it's 50 miles per hour.
50 miles an hour, yep.
So they have to stay above 50 or something.
Or the bomb explodes.
If they go below, the bomb will blow up. If they try to get anybody off the bus, the bomb will blow up. And there's what they had to deliver, like a ransom, right? That was the thing?
Yeah,
Or was it
basically
something
they
else?
are the ransom because like he starts negotiating while the bus is ongoing. So he's kind of
So-
communicating with the hostages and the police about like how to
And
do
they have
things.
to like drive, and they get to a point where the bridge is broken, and they got to jump over it, and they make it, and then they finally get to like an airplane hangar place where they can just go, or the tarmac, not the hangar, and they can go and like they figure it out, and then we got to do it again, and then after that they get to the train, and wouldn't you know, they get the girl on the train there too. And they gotta do it a third time in the same.
And the train has
movie.
a closed station coming up too, so they gotta ramp off.
They just recycled the same plot 3 times in the same
one movie.
And when they did it the third time, I was like, actually, I mean, maybe it's like a weird meta way of surprising you, because you're like, no way are they gonna do this again. But when they did it the third time, I was like, okay, this movie's horrible. Like, it's terrible. Also, we never talked about Inception. That was another huge movie that people love.
I think
that's
Nolan. I
another
mean, just
cult.
Nolan's in general. I mean, all of his. I mean, Inception will be one that stands. I didn't see the new one, but Inception. I mean, that caught
New Inception.
the Tenet.
Tenet.
I never saw Tenet.
Oh, a new Christopher Nolan movie.
Yeah,
You're saying?
sorry.
Okay.
I
Where
feel
it
like
was,
Tenet,
an action movie with some crazy ass shit that's happening in it too.
Tenet was like the most Christopher Nolan movie that ever Christopher Nolan, so you weren't missing much.
I mean, I enjoyed Inception, but I feel like that's actually a movie that often gets forgotten about. Like the concept of it's really cool. I haven't seen it since I was, like youth group days. Like
I
it's
saw it
been
for the
long
first time a
time.
couple of years ago, actually, because I didn't watch it in the.
Was it
crate
good
again.
a couple years ago as an adult?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's a good movie.
Because it was good that I could follow the whole movie and because when it came out, everyone was like, "Dream inside a dream." It makes sense when why it's a dream inside of a dream, like what they're doing, like when you actually, it's a stretch, but it and then the way that movie starts and how it circles around. I mean that's a movie you don't really want to
enjoy
spoil
it.
for people that don't want to.
Come on.
The way that it's one of those perfect full circle. The movie actually nails it. Inception's a good call.
That came out like 14 years ago.
Yeah.
God, really?
I don't know if Dunkirk is gonna. I really that was a movie I really liked, but I don't think that has enough.
I just started watching that the other day, and it was it's just kind of a classic war movie.
It's just a war movie. I mean, I just really like the cinematography in it. I just like the act. I don't think it's gonna
one thing that did make me laugh about that movie is there's the kid who jumps on the boat, like the real young one, not the son of the guy who owns the boat, but like the random, just the random kid who jumps on, and he's like, "What are you doing? We're going to war." And he's like, "I could be useful, sir." That kid. And the minute that anything happens, they start pushing each other around, and he gets his head bopped, and he's just on the ground. He's like, I was like, what? Get the fuck out of here, kid. What are you doing? You didn't even get to the war, and you're talking about you're asking if this guy is a coward over here, and then you get shoved down a set of stairs. And mind, there's 3 stairs. It's in a boat, it's in a small pleasure yacht. Maybe there's 2 stairs, and he bumps his head and can't see, and I paused the movie because I had something else to do, but he might die. I don't even know. I was like, what are you doing, kid? Go back home.
I won't spoil it for you here. The fate of that kid, but and you're all right. We're getting close to our hour here. Let's put a bow on the pod here, folks. Any closing thoughts on action movies?
Yeah, I think that we should, I think the inspiration behind this topic, Paul, was like, do you think that action movies, thrillers, sci-fi, whatever of today will be able to hold up to movies like, stuff like Die Hard and like the old classics? I think absolutely. I think
Yeah.
it's going to be a very, very small percentage, but like I was saying earlier, like, of course, it's going to be the same thing. Like, I think even more movies are being made now. And just like music, there's a lot being made, and there's some of the best that's ever been made is being made now too, but also some of the worst. So you just
There's
kind of
just
have
so
to
much.
Yeah, there's so much that of course there's going to be cult classics. I think already Dune is going to be one of those. No matter what I think about it, Fury Road is it was an instant classic when it was released. And stuff like John Wick too, which I also have some interesting opinions on. But I did enjoy that. I enjoyed it. I don't want to upset Trevor. He's too nice.
No, I mean the second and
But,
third one
yeah.
kind of drop off for me. The first one I feel like is a cult
Motherfucker
classic.
Killed his dog.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have killed the dog, you idiots.
Freaking Theon.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it is Theon, isn't it? Alfie Allen or whatever.
Yeah.
I think that's his name. He's a great actor, dude.
I feel like I haven't seen him
He's
in
really
much
good
else
at being a
besides
prick.
those two things. Yeah, for real. But yeah, no, I think I totally agree with what Caleb was saying. Like, yeah, if we went back and looked through like even just the 80s, like 80 to 90, all the movies came out, and then what percentage of those movies are the ones that now have these cult followings and we remember fondly, and they're making remake after reboot after remake over them or whatever. Like, I'm sure it's a pretty small percentage of the total number of movies that was made during those 10 years. And that's kind of where we're at now of like, they're just throwing a ton of stuff out there. A lot of it is reboots and remakes. And I feel like movies like Uncharted that are very just uninspired and kind of boring. But every once in a while we get the Batman, we get Dune, which are just all-time greats. So
Uncharted,
was
they play
great.
their roles too, like sometimes I do honestly want to watch a dumb movie. Like I don't usually go out of my way, but like I do look at thumbnails, I do see trailers of dumb movies, especially action movies, and I'm like, again, if action movies today were shorter, I would be way more in, because if it's an hour and a half fun action movie with a good looking cast of of actors I like, good chance I will at least give it a chance and try it and watch it.
Speaking of which, real quick, I was going to mention this earlier. You're talking about action movies being too long. Amanda and I recently discovered, I think it's on Prime, they have like all the old Pokemon movies, like the original, like Pokemon movie, Pokemon 2, Pokemon 3, like the one with Entei, the one with Mewtwo, like all those ones. And we were going through and watching a couple of them, and those movies are 72 minutes long. They're so short, and they waste no time with explaining any sort of anything.
Episode.
They're just like,
I love it.
They're just like, here's the thing. Like, Ash and the team find themselves in this place. You don't need to worry about how they got there or anything. And now they're dealing with this. Don't worry about that. The police aren't dealing with it, or like whatever, bigger entity. No, it's Ash and his friends. Sometimes his mom shows
with
up.
the fucking magic beasts to figure it out.
Don't question it. 72 minutes. Let's go.
Another movie
Opening
we didn't
credits
talk
10.
a lot about that I think deserves, I would say, is one of the coolest action movies that I saw, at least relatively recently. Blade Runner 2049 kicks ass, and I'm really excited to watch that movie again. But that movie is a slow burn action. Same with the original Blade Runner. Those are two of my favorite. Like, I would say those are movies you must watch. I mean, if you can watch them a little earlier in the day. And ones we haven't talked about either, because I haven't seen them yet, is like Godfather and stuff too. We didn't even like touch on
I
it.
know. I need to. watch
Godfather
I read
and
the
mob
book,
movies and all of those. I mean, that's a whole and westerns. Like, there's all these other genres and stuff that you can. But I think you're right. There's just so much. There will be movies that will stand the test of time. We hope the Chat Pack podcast stands the test of time. We really appreciate you spending time with us here on the Chat Pack podcast. You can find the podcast streaming on your favorite streaming service and live when we record it, hopefully going forward Wednesdays at 5 p.m. Eastern on twitch.tv/chat_pack. You can find all sorts of fun stuff, including Caleb's viral Elden Ring video and a whole lot of Mario baseball content, Fortnite content from Trevor at the Chat Pack YouTube page. So join us there. Before we wrap up, it's Caleb's recommendation. It's Caleb's recommendation. At the end of our shows, we like to have Caleb recommend something. Caleb, your recommendation for today.
I've already plugged it a lot, but I just watched Dune 2 days ago. So I'm going to plug Dune. I mean, like, it was incredible. It was life-changing. I watched it for the first time 3 days ago, and then 2 days ago I watched it again, and we're logging off. I might watch it a third time. It's so good. It's ridiculous. Watch
hang around because we're gonna play some Dead Rising here on the channel and after we wrap up today. But Trevor, I can't remember what our bit was for you. I think it was like Trevor's tips or something like that. So what's your
Trevor's tip? Oh, tips. Yeah,
Tips.
yeah, got it.
I don't know if I have any tips. Let's see. Yeah,
Trevor's
give me a handy car fact, just something small.
handy car fact. Make sure that you check your tire pressure as the temperatures warm up because air expands as it gets warmer, and your tire pressure might be weird.
So you
There
can
you go.
explode your tire. Don't explode your tires. Boys and
Go
girls.
check out Dune. Thanks for hanging out with us. What do you think about action movies? Let us know. You can follow us on Twitter. Let us know in the comments of this video. It's going to be posted on YouTube. And folks, until next pine. Wow, neck pine.
Until next club
time.
capital.
This has been the Chat Pack Podcast, and where we talk about this, that, and the other thing. And until next time, we will catch you on the flip.